if the future of our energy dependence does not lie on solar power or wind power? What if I say that the future of our energy dependence lies in seawater? As we speak, it is happening in Japan. Japan has created a technology where an entire power plant is running on seawater. Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, Everything with Dr. James. Today we are going to be speaking about the Fukuoka power plant which is running on seawater. Before we understand the significance of this seawater energy finding, we need to understand the energy problem of Japan. Japan imports about 90% of fuels for its needs. They do not produce it on their own and they are entirely dependent on imports. Before, they had a lot of nuclear power plants which was giving about 25% of their energy needs. But after the Fukushima nuclear disaster following a tsunami on March 11, 2011, what happened was that reactor was shut and the public's trust on nuclear reactors reduced, and they had to slowly shut down all the nuclear reactors present, and that source of energy disappeared. So they started looking into solar energy. But for solar energy, you need large areas of land where you can keep the solar panels. Japan's terrain is such that it has a lot of mountains, and covering large areas of lands is difficult. Another problem is Japan is one of the most densely populated areas in the world, and acquiring large pieces of land seem impossible for this solar. With the solar panels out of question, they turned to windmills for using wind to harness their energy needs. But the problem in Japan is lot of typhoons happen and it becomes very dangerous. Also, these winds are seasonal and they don't come always, so they cannot rely on that. So the problem with solar panels, wind, and they are importing a lot of fuel, this was causing a severe strain on Japan's economy because they were importing a lot of fuel from other countries, plus they were increasing in their carbon emissions. Now Japan started looking into the water for their energy need. On August 5, 2025, the Fukuoka Waterworks Agency first announced that they have their first osmotic plant from which they are taking power. So how this works, we have to understand. They use a technology called as the salient gradient power technology. So how they harness it is, when a river meets a sea, that is when a fresh water meets a seawater, there is a lot of energy which is generated from that. So when this fresh water is meeting the seawater and the energy is generated, this is harnessed by this Japanese power plant, and it is being used to run their power plant 24/7 uninterrupted. They don't have any backup power using fuel or anything. This is providing 24/7 power supply to the power plant. Now, Japan says that this technology can be used as a 24/7 power supply all through the year, because if you see for solar panels, when the sun sets the power goes, and if you take for windmills, it is seasonal. If winds are not there, typhoons are there, it is dangerous. But this provides us with a reliable method where we can harness energy 24/7 365 days a year. So now let's see how this system works. So how it works is, think of a giant semi-permeable membrane situated in the power plant. So what they do is they allow the seawater to flow in one side and the salt water to flow in one side. As we can see, the salt water has a lot of salt. According to nature, we have a process called as the pressure gradient osmosis, where this salt will suck the water from the other side. This semi-permeable membrane, which is separating the fresh water and the sea water, is such that it will allow only the water molecules to pass through but not the salt. With salt having a higher osmotic gradient, will suck all the water from the freshwater area. So suddenly in this salt water side, we have a high pressure gradient and there is huge gush of fresh water into this salt water area. This flow will be harnessed by the turbines. So this flow will make the turbines rotate, which in turn will help us generate electricity. The beauty of this mechanism is you can harness energy 24/7 365 days a year. Even if there is a typhoon, even there is rain, this can go on because all the time the river water is going to go into the seawater, and you can take the fresh water, the seawater has salt, it will suck the fresh water through the semi-permeable membrane, and this will make the turbines rotate, and in turn energy will be produced. Now Japan is trying to harness this technology, and by 2040 they want to use this technology for around 40 to 50% of their fuel needs. Fukuoka is a city in Japan which is situated in the coastline. So there is no problem with the availability of seawater there. Of course, there are many rivers in Fukuoka which flow into the seawater, but they are not harnessing the fresh water from there. What they are doing for this fresh water is actually a very brilliant plan. They are using the treated water from sewage plants. So when these treated sewage water comes out, it becomes fresh water. This fresh water is taken into this plant and put into this for harnessing energy. This is actually a brilliant idea, because in every city in the world, millions of gallons of sewage water is being treated, converted to fresh water before being put into the sea, or sometimes directly the sewage water is put into the sea, harming the environment. But here you can use the same sewage water to harness energy, which is a brilliant plan. One more brilliant idea which Japan is doing is it's using something called as brine. What is this brine is, they have a separate plant in Fukuoka where they are using the desalination technology for converting the seawater into fresh water. When you convert seawater to fresh water, lot of salt remains. So they take that salt and put it in the saltwater side of this power plant. So what happens? We previously discovered osmosis. What does osmosis do? The osmosis is higher in the side where there is more salt. So with seawater having some salt and putting this brine also, it will suck more fresh water, more water will flow in, and it will make the turbines flow more, which will cost more energy. This is actually a brilliant plan which Japan has given. This technology by Japan is a technology for the future which has to be researched more. The feasibility, of course, this is going to be useful only for cities in coastlines where the seawater is available more, and it can't be used in places which are situated in heartland, like places like Delhi can't use it. But of course, this is a plan which needs to be seen, and the lessons learned from Japan can be learned by us also, and such that we can become self-sufficient in our energy needs. Do like, share and subscribe me for more interest.